The road to Whitman Hill was covered in fog that afternoon, the kind that softened the edges of everything until the world felt quieter than it should. Claire Whitman drove with both hands on the wheel and a pumpkin pie cooling on the passenger seat beside her. It was her mother's recipe extra nutmeg, half a teaspoon of maple syrup, the same one they'd made together every Thanksgiving since she was a child. She told herself this year would be no different. When she pulled into the gravel driveway, the lights of the old farmhouse glowed warm against the gray sky. Through the kitchen window, she could see her mother, Evelyn Whitman, moving from counter to counter with practiced grace. Her father, Thomas, set the table. Vanessa, her older sister, scrolled on her phone, legs crossed on one of the dining chairs. Aaron, her brother, poured wine like he owned the place. The sight almost made Claire smile. She carried the pie inside, the sweet smell mixing with roasted turkey and sage. "Hey, everyone," she said softly. Her mother turned, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Claire, you made it." The tone wasn't warm, but not cold either, just careful. Claire set the pie on the counter. "Still warm. You'll be proud of me." "Mom, I didn't even burn the crust this time." Evelyn didn't laugh. Her hand tightened around the towel. "Can we talk before dinner?" Thomas looked up briefly, then back to the silverware. Vanessa froze, her phone lowering an inch. Aaron cleared his throat. Something in the air shifted. "Of course," Claire said, smiling, though her stomach twisted. "What's wrong?" Evelyn inhaled, steady but trembling. "Give it back." Claire blinked. "Give what back?" "The $50,000. Claire, from my account." The room stilled. Even the clock seemed to hold its breath. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Evelyn's voice cracked but didn't soften. "The money disappeared right after you helped me set up online banking. The bank confirmed the withdrawals were done from my profile. You're the only one who had access. For a second." Claire thought it was a joke, a terrible one, but no one laughed. Thomas pressed his lips together. Vanessa's eyes darted to the floor. Aaron studied the wine bottle label as if it had answers. "I didn't take anything," Claire said quietly. "You know I wouldn't." "Then prove it," Evelyn cut in, "because until you do, you can't stay here pretending everything's fine." The pie was still in her hands, warm against her palms, heavy now. She looked at it, stupidly, as if it could explain what had just happened. "Mom," her voice broke. "Give it back," Evelyn whispered. "Or, don't come home again." No one moved. No one defended her. The only sound was the hum of the oven and the soft tick of the kitchen clock. Claire set the pie down carefully on the counter. The metal tray clicked against the granite. Sharp and final. "Happy Thanksgiving," she said, and walked out. Claire didn't remember walking to her car, only the cold air cutting through her coat and the sound of gravel shifting under her shoes. The porch light cast a faint glow across the yard, but the house behind her already felt miles away. She gripped the steering wheel, her breath fogging the windshield, and waited for the shaking in her hands to stop. Inside the kitchen, the pie she'd brought would still be sitting on the counter, cooling beside the turkey. That image clung to her mind, the pie untouched, her mother's face unreadable, the room full of people who loved silence more than truth. She started the engine. Headlights sliced through the mist, catching the edge of the old mailbox that still had her childhood initials carved into the paint. For a moment, she wanted to turn back, to knock on the door and demand they look her in the eye. But she didn't. Evelyn had said the words too clearly for there to be any misunderstanding. "Give it back, or don't come home again." Claire whispered the line under her breath, testing how it sounded when she said it out loud. It hurt worse that way, too sharp, too real. The road out of Whitman Hill was narrow and winding. Houses glowed faintly behind frosted windows, families still laughing around their tables. Every porch light she passed felt like a reminder of the life she'd just been exiled from. She turned on the radio to drown out her thoughts, but couldn't stand the cheerful voices wishing everyone a happy holiday. She drove until the town lights disappeared behind her and the world turned black except for the 2 white beams ahead. No tears came, no anger either. Just a hollow quiet that settled somewhere deep inside her chest. An hour later, she pulled into the parking lot of a roadside inn she'd passed 100 times before but never had reason to stop at. The neon sign flickered in and out Maple Rest Lodge. She checked in without explaining, the clerk not bothering to ask. Inside the room, the heater hummed weakly and the air smelled of old carpet and loneliness. Claire sank onto the edge of the bed, still wearing her coat, staring at her empty hands. For the first time, she realized she hadn't even eaten. Only now did she understand this was what it felt like to lose a family without anyone dying. The motel room was small enough that Claire could hear the hum of the vending machine outside. She turned on the lamp beside the bed, its yellow light flickering over wallpaper that hadn't been replaced in decades. She sat there for a while, shoes still on, staring at the faint reflection of herself in the dark window. Somewhere out there, the world was still celebrating Thanksgiving, but for her, it was already over. She opened her phone, half expecting a message from her mother, an apology, a correction, something that would make the evening make sense. Nothing. The only notification was a spam email about a holiday sale. Claire laughed once, quietly, the sound brittle and empty. The silence pressed in around her, heavier than the accusation itself. She tried to replay the conversation, every word, every pause. Her mother's voice had trembled, but not from doubt, from certainty. That was what hurt most, the conviction that her daughter was guilty. Claire rubbed her hands together, remembering how they'd shaken when she left the house. She was still wearing the sweater her mom had given her last Christmas, a soft gray one with tiny pearls along the cuffs. The gift suddenly felt like a lie. Her phone buzzed. For a moment, her heart lifted, thinking it might be Evelyn. It wasn't. It was Vanessa. "We didn't want it to come to this." The message read, "But you made it hard to trust you." Claire stared at the screen until the words blurred. "No, I'm sorry. No, we'll figure this out." Just a final verdict dressed as concern. She set the phone face down on the nightstand, across from the bed. A small desk held a stack of motel stationery. She pulled one sheet free, uncapped the pen from her purse, and began to write not a letter. Not yet, but notes, fragments of memory. The day she'd helped Evelyn set up online banking, the exact steps, the passwords written in the blue notepad by the kitchen phone, details that had felt meaningless then, but now pulsed with urgency. Outside, a car door slammed, then silence again. Claire exhaled slowly. She wasn't ready to cry. Not yet, for now. All she could do was sit in the quiet and try to remember every detail, every keystroke, because if she was going to be treated like a criminal, she might as well start thinking like an investigator. Claire woke before dawn, the motel room still wrapped in darkness. The clock on the nightstand blinked, 5:12 a.m., and the world outside was silent except for the soft hiss of snow beginning to fall. She sat up slowly, her mind already moving faster than her body. Years of investigating corporate fraud had trained her to think in patterns, to see through lies, and now, those instincts felt sharper than grief. She reached for her laptop, still tucked in the leather briefcase she never traveled without. The screen's glow filled the small room, casting long shadows on the walls. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard for a moment before she began typing. Her firm, Northbridge Forensics, was currently assisting in a case involving elder financial abuse. She had clearance, credentials, and, more importantly, access to internal data from several regional banks, including Greenwell Mutual, the same bank her mother used. Claire hesitated. What she was about to do wasn't exactly sanctioned, but she wasn't doing it for a client this time. She was doing it for herself. She logged in through the company's secure network, opening a fresh search window. Her pulse steadied as she typed Evelyn Whitman, account activity, October to November. The results populated slowly, each line a timestamp of trust broken. 3 large withdrawals appeared. 20,000, 15, 15 again. Each one spaced 5 days apart. Each one labeled in-person withdrawal. Claire leaned back. Her family had accused her of online theft. Yet here it was, the first crack in the story. If the money had been withdrawn at a branch, it couldn't have been her. She hadn't even been in town. She opened the security footage request tab, cross-referenced the transaction times, and sent a message to Theo, the compliance officer overseeing the firm's elder fraud division. Need the teller logs and footage for these dates. Confidential review, CW. The heater clicked on, filling the silence. Claire took a slow breath. For the first time since last night, she felt something other than pain purpose. She wasn't just the accused daughter anymore. She was the investigator. Her phone buzzed with Theo's reply faster than she expected. On it. Give me an hour. Claire closed her eyes, leaning against the headboard, exhaustion pressing down, somewhere between heartbreak and analysis. She found clarity. The truth was buried in numbers, timestamps, and footage, and she was the one person in this family who knew how to dig. The question wasn't whether she could find it. It was whether she was ready for what it might reveal. An hour later, a notification blinked on Claire's laptop screen. Theo had sent the file's transaction logs, teller notes, and 3 attached video links from Greenwell Mutual Bank. She pulled the desk chair closer, heart pounding as she clicked the first one. The grainy footage showed the bank lobby bathed in midday light. A woman in a gray hoodie stepped to the counter, sunglasses hiding half her face. At first glance, just another customer, but when she lowered her mask to speak to the teller, Claire froze. Vanessa. Even through the blur, she recognized her sister's profile, the nervous glance over her shoulder, the way she twisted her ring when anxious. Claire hit pause. The date stamp read, October 10th, 13 p.m., the day after she'd last visited home to help Evelyn set up online banking. Her throat tightened. She played the clip again, slower this time, watching Vanessa hand over what looked like an ID card. The teller smiled, processed the withdrawal, slid a receipt across the counter. Vanessa signed it. Claire leaned forward, zooming in on the signature. It was shaky, but familiar. Vanessa had copied their mother's handwriting since high school art class. She opened the second video. Different day. Same branch. This time it was Aaron, her brother. No disguise. He wore a navy sweater, calm and confident, joking with the teller as he withdrew another 15,000. The ease of it made Claire's skin crawl. When he left, he waved at someone off camera, Vanessa, probably waiting in the car. The third video confirmed it. 5 days later, Vanessa returned alone. Same hoodie, same routine. Another 15,000. 3 withdrawals in total, all completed in person. Not online. Not her. Claire sat back, the reality settling over her like cold air. They hadn't just taken the money, they'd staged it, waited until she'd helped their mother transition to digital banking, then used that as their alibi. When the money vanished, she'd be the obvious suspect, the tech-savvy daughter with access. She scrolled through the logs Theo had attached. Each transaction included the same branch ID, the same teller initials. The handwriting matched perfectly. The recovery email listed for online notifications was not her mother's. It ended in I, Aaron $89. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't even realized her brother had changed the contact info. Claire pushed away from the desk, pacing the small motel room. 1,000 memories replayed Aaron's comments about her salary, Vanessa's forced smiles at family dinners, their mother's quiet pride that seemed to irritate her siblings. Maybe this betrayal hadn't begun with money. Maybe it had always been waiting, growing in the silence between them. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Theo. You, okay, that footage is bad. Want me to escalate? Claire typed back. Not yet. I need to handle this myself. She looked at the paused image on the screen. Vanessa mid-smile, pen in hand, and whispered, You really did it. Then she opened a new folder on her laptop, labeled it Whitman Case, Personal, and began to build the evidence file, line by line, frame by frame. Because if they wanted her to play the villain, she'd make sure she had the receipts. The snow had melted into a thin mist by the time Claire packed her things. The folder on her laptop was complete, every timestamp, every receipt, every image frozen in evidence. She closed the lid, slipped the computer into her briefcase, and stared at her reflection in the mirror. The same tired eyes, the same calm she wore in courtrooms. Only this time, the trial was at her family's table. She checked out of the motel just after noon. The highway stretched ahead, long and gray, lined with bare trees and patches of lingering frost. As she drove, the hum of the engine mixed with the rhythm of her thoughts. Every mile closer to Whitman Hill, her heartbeat slowed into resolve. She remembered the last time she'd driven this way 3 days ago, pie on the seat beside her, hope in her chest. It felt like a different lifetime. She'd come then as a daughter. She was returning as something else entirely. The turnoff appeared, familiar and unwelcome. Claire slowed, following the curve of the road until the old house came into view. The windows glowed faintly in the late afternoon light, the same golden warmth that used to make her feel safe. Now it only looked staged, like a set piece from a life she no longer believed in. She parked at the curb and killed the engine. For a long moment, she didn't move. The briefcase sat on the passenger seat, its leather worn smooth from years of cases that never mattered this much. Claire rested her hand on it, feeling the weight of truth pressing through the handle. She wasn't sure what would hurt more, being right, or watching them realize she was. Either way, it was time to go home. The driveway was full when Claire arrived. Aaron's SUV sat crooked near the mailbox, Vanessa's compact car glinting beside it. Through the kitchen window, she could see shadows moving, the soft glow of dinner light, silhouettes she'd known her whole life. The house looked warm, too warm. Claire sat in the car for another minute, letting the heater run, fingers resting on the leather folder in her lap. Then she turned off the ignition and stepped out. The air smelled like rosemary and broth, the way it always did when Evelyn cooked. Claire's boots crunched over the frost-tipped grass as she walked up the steps. Her heart didn't race. It just beat slow and steady, as if preparing for impact. Inside, the sounds of conversation faded the moment she opened the door. Evelyn stood by the sink, drying dishes with a towel that matched her apron. Aaron leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Vanessa perched on the kitchen island, phone beside her mug of coffee. Thomas sat at the table, quiet as ever. All of them turned toward Claire as if the air had shifted. Claire. Evelyn's voice was the first to break the silence, soft, careful, uncertain. "I won't stay long," Claire said. Her voice surprised her, steady, controlled. She set the black folder on the counter, its edges glinting under the light. "I came to return something. Not money. The truth." Aaron's jaw tightened. Vanessa's smirk faltered. Thomas didn't move. Evelyn looked from the folder to her daughter. "What is this proof?" Claire said simply. She opened the folder and pulled out the first photo, a still frame from the bank's security camera. Vanessa in her gray hoodie, sunglasses pushed to the top of her head, leaning over the teller's counter. "October 10th, Claire said. $20,000. Not online. Not me." Vanessa's breath caught. Aaron looked away. Evelyn blinked at the photo, confusion clouding her eyes. Claire slid another image onto the counter. Aaron in a navy sweater, smiling at the teller as he signed a withdrawal slip. October 15th, 15,000. The next one, Vanessa again. October 20th, another 15. She laid down the teller slips, the signature comparisons, the log of the account recovery email linked to Aaron's phone number. Every piece fell into place like a quiet verdict. No one spoke. The kitchen clock ticked, steady and merciless. Evelyn finally whispered, "But the bank said it was done online. They said you—" "That's what they thought," Claire said. "The withdrawals were in person. The online access came later from your home Wi-Fi. And the recovery address, it's Aaron's, the number used for verification. His—" Evelyn's hand trembled as she reached for the documents. She scanned the pages, her lips moving silently. Then her gaze shifted to Vanessa. "Tell me this isn't true." Vanessa's eyes filled, but didn't fall. "You never see it." "Do you?" she said bitterly. "She gets everything. The job. The praise. You act like she's perfect. This isn't about jealousy," Claire said quietly. "Isn't it?" Vanessa shot back. "You don't know what it's like being the disappointment. You left, and somehow that made you the hero." Claire stared at her sister for a long moment, then shook her head. "You didn't level anything." "Vanessa, you burned it." Aaron straightened. "Mom, it wasn't personal. We were desperate. She makes more money than all of us combined. It didn't seem fair." Thomas finally spoke, his voice rough. "Fair. You stole from your mother and framed your sister." No one answered. Evelyn sank into the nearest chair. The folder opened before her, evidence scattered like broken glass. Claire looked at her mother. "You believed I took it. You told me not to come back unless I returned the money." Her voice lowered. "I didn't take the money, Mom, but I brought it back, the truth you refused to ask for." Evelyn's eyes brimmed. "Claire!" She didn't move. Claire closed the folder, the sound sharp in the silence. "I'm not pressing charges," she said. "The file's been sent to the family attorney. You'll decide what to do next." She turned toward the door. "Claire, please," Evelyn said, standing now, voice breaking. "You're my daughter." Claire stopped, her hand on the doorknob. "You should have remembered that before you stopped believing me." She opened the door. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of snow. Behind her, no one followed. The only sound was the rustle of the folder pages as Evelyn's shaking hands tried to gather them. Claire stepped out into the night, the porch light spilling across her shoulders like an unfinished goodbye. Claire didn't look back as she stepped off the porch. The night was cold, sharp enough to bite through her coat, but she barely felt it. Her car waited at the curb, headlights off, a dark shape against the street. Behind her, the Whitman house glowed softly, warm light spilling through the kitchen windows, silhouettes shifting inside. It looked like home, but it wasn't hers anymore. She sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, hands resting on the steering wheel. Through the windshield, she could see her mother still standing near the table. The black folder open before her, pages spread like evidence of everything they'd lost. Evelyn looked smaller now, almost fragile. Claire felt the ache rise in her chest, but she didn't let it win. The pie still sat on the counter. She could picture it, the same one she'd carried in with Hope 3 nights ago. Still untouched, still waiting for someone who wasn't welcome anymore. Claire started the car. The engine hummed softly, steady against the quiet street. No one came outside. No one called her name. The air between her and the house felt final, sealed. As she drove away, the lights of Whitman Hill faded behind her. The road curved into darkness, lined with the same trees she'd passed 100 times before. But now they looked different, like witnesses who wouldn't speak. Her reflection in the rearview mirror was calm, her eyes dry, her face older than it had been that morning. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. There was a strange peace in knowing the truth was no longer trapped inside her. It had been laid bare on the kitchen table where love used to sit, where silence now lived. Boston felt colder when Claire returned, though maybe it was just her. The city streets were dressed in holiday lights, windows filled with wreaths and gold ribbons. But she walked past them without slowing down. Life moved on around her, strangers carrying shopping bags, couples laughing, taxis honking, but she moved through it like someone between worlds. She went back to work at Northbridge Forensics the next morning, no explanation offered, no questions asked. Her coworkers assumed she'd spent Thanksgiving with family. She didn't correct them. Days blurred into weeks. She spoke less during meetings, left earlier, slept less. The black folder from that night stayed in her apartment, tucked in the drawer beneath old tax files. She couldn't bring herself to throw it away. Truth might have cleared her name, but it hadn't made her free. One evening, she came home to a blinking voicemail light. She almost ignored it. Then she pressed play. Claire. It was Evelyn's voice, soft, shaky. We were wrong, I know that now. I didn't want to believe it could be them, so I believed the lie instead. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. The house feels empty. That's all I wanted to say. The message ended before the minute mark. Claire stood still for a long time, the phone cold in her hand. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived with her mother's handwriting on the front. Inside was a folded piece of paper, an old, stained recipe card for pumpkin pie, written in faded ink. Beneath the ingredients, a note in Evelyn's careful cursive. I tried baking it this year. It didn't taste the same. I think I know why. There was also a photograph 3 children sitting on the back porch in mismatched Halloween costumes, Vanessa with silver wings, Aaron covered in red paint, and Claire as a scarecrow smiling too wide for the camera. Claire placed the photo on her desk beside the recipe card. She didn't cry, but her throat tightened. On Saturday, she stood before a classroom at the community college, teaching financial protection for older adults. When the session ended, an older woman lingered behind and said, I wish I had a daughter like you. Claire smiled faintly. So did mine, she said. Outside, snow began to fall again, quiet and clean, covering everything that used to hurt.